and welcome to Tech Connects, Dice's podcast where we dig into the topics on tech hiring, recruiting, and careers that matter to you. I'm your host, Nick Kolakowski, and I'm going to talk to great guests every month about the current state of the tech careers world, including taking the temperature of the tech job market, the hottest tech skills, what companies are doing to attract and retain technology professionals in a historically tight market, and much more. Our next guest is Lisa Gevelber, who's Google's CMO of the Americas and founder of Grow with Google. If you're unfamiliar with Grow with Google, it's an initiative to give tech pros and aspiring tech pros the training, tools, and resources they need to grow their tech skills and land great jobs. Grow with Google has produced career certificates in data analytics and other industry specializations, which tech professionals can use to stand out in a crowded field of applicants when applying for jobs. Let's listen in as Lisa and I talk about Grow with Google, the program's most popular certificates, how tech skills programs can boost diversity, employers' desperate need for tech specialists, and much more. Obviously, I'm very excited to speak to you because I've been writing about and obviously I know about everything that Grow with Google has been doing and all the certification programs and things like that. And the thing that's always sprung to mind for me whenever I've heard a reference to it or, talked to somebody about it or anything like that is it's such an immense program. And we all know that a company as large as Google, it's sort of like an oil tanker. Like it takes a lot of resources and time and effort to get it to sort of move in a particular direction. And I'm wondering, how did you start it? How did the program start? How do you align an organization so large to devote resources to an initiative like this? Because it's fascinating.
Yeah. Actually, it was quite simple. We have always been really focused on ensuring that the opportunities that are created by technology are truly available to everyone. Mm-hmm. Google's products are for everyone products. And we saw a really unique need in the market that we thought we could fill using Google expertise, right? It's something that we thought we could relatively uniquely do, which was around helping people grow their skills, careers, and businesses using technology. And we honed in quite early on a very specific but really large societal problem, and Google likes big problems. Yeah. And that was that almost every job in our country, and not too different in many countries around the world, that pays well and has a great trajectory, say they require a college degree. But in the US, only about a third of Americans have a 4-year degree. So there was this gigantic gap between what people were capable of doing and what they were getting access to do. And we really believed that we could give more people access to great jobs at a pretty significant scale. And that's where the idea for the Google Career Certificate Program came from.
Mm-hmm. How much, obviously you might not be able to share full numbers, but I just want to kind of give the audience an idea of the scope of the program and the size of it. How many, if you can share, how many people have enrolled? How big has it gotten?
Yeah, to us, it's really impressive how fast it's growing, but we're also excited there's so many more people to help. Mm-hmm. In the U.S. alone, there's about 80 million Americans locked out of good jobs without degrees, but we're off to a good start. Okay. We have about 500,000 graduates globally across the Google Career Certificate Program.
Oh, wow. No, that's really big. One thing, so for years I've been covering it at different publications and everything. I've covered Google, and I've always been really interested in Google was one of the first companies to issue a very in-depth diversity report where you break down kind of the compositions internally, of executives and the tech core and so on. And one thing that when I've spoken to Google folks over the years, Googlers, is sort of this idea that the pipeline feeding tech talent, and not just Google, but Microsoft, Apple, every tiny tech company out there. Sort of, if the educational system was more diverse in terms of people entering CS, computer science programs, and so on, then hopefully that would eventually translate over a certain period of time into a more diverse workforce. And so, whenever I hear about the Google Career Certificate programs and so on, I'm just wondering if these sorts of programs kind of improve the potentially either potentially or else you're actually seeing it improve the diversity of people entering tech, because that's a very important thing. And I'm just wondering how these programs potentially impact that, because obviously it's a focus for Google, it's a focus for everybody in terms of DEIB right now.
Yeah. We care a lot about this topic, and I think we are seeing some really positive results. If you look at our graduate pool, so people who fully completed the certificate program, about 55% of them in the U.S. are Black, Latino, or Asian. And we focus a lot around how do we bring access to this incredible training and certificate program all around the country and actually around the world, with this goal of really diversifying the people who can access these amazing jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. It's the sort of thing where, I mean, is it, I've talked to so many pundits about this who suggest that the kind of the formality and the rigidness of a 4-year degree potentially slows down the number of people who are entering the tech space. I mean, do you think that's the case? I mean, do you think that traditional education like potentially slows down like the people entering it, and or do you think that it's not really an issue in terms of that?
I mean, I think, make no mistake, I think getting a college degree is a life-changing thing. Our belief is it just can't be the only way to change your life. And so these certificates are certainly meant as an additional alternative pathway that will and is already providing people with increased access to great jobs and economic security. But we are also believers in the higher ed system, and we actually have made a lot of partnerships in higher ed. We initially started with the community college system, which is a really important part of training the workforce in our country. We have astounding results with community colleges. One of my favorite examples is Dallas College in Texas. Within a few years, they had graduated 500 people with just the Google IT support certificate alone. We have 6 certificates in different fields, which I can speak about, but this particular community college got really smart about how to leverage the content we had already created with the amazing system that they have for helping students get educated and get great jobs. And since that time, we've actually built really incredible partnerships also at the 4-year bachelor's degree level. One great example of that is the University of Texas and the Texas state systems. So they're offering the Google Career Certificates to all of their students. And within just a few months, they had enrolled almost 3,000 students. So those people are complementing their 4-year degree with a Google Career Certificate, because the data shows, and I can talk more about this, that when you complement a bachelor's degree with a high quality industry recognized credential, you actually become more employable at higher wages.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes absolute total sense. In terms of that data, of what are people gravitating towards in terms of certificates? I mean, is there any like one standout, like people really want to be involved in this, or is it kind of even between them? I mean, how does that work out?
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud to say that the Google Data Analytics Certificate is the #1 professional certificate globally on Coursera. And I suppose that's not surprising, because if you look at data, and one of our favorite sources of data is Google search data, what you can see is people looking for new jobs and careers. So we look at like queries like how to become queries, how to become a particular profession. And it turns out that how to become a data analyst was actually the top how to become query in 2022. Which is, users looking for ways to get into the career field. But we also look at other data. So we look at job posting data. And actually, the need for data analytics is one of the highest skills in demand. As a matter of fact, it's about 15 times the demand for the average of other skills. So both employers really are looking for people, and people are looking to get the skills they need to get these great jobs. And doing this analysis to really understand what are the most in-demand, high-growth, high-paying jobs is a big part of how we develop our criteria for which certificates we create. So We look for in-demand, high-growth, high-paying jobs, which can all be taught online in a reasonable period of time. Most of our certificates are completable in about 3 months. And they're all things that where Google has unique expertise, right? That's one of the big value propositions, is that every one of our certificates is written, designed, and built by experts who work at Google, who have decades of years of experience in these fields. So you're really learning from people who are doing the job. And that's how we picked our fields. And so we have 6 different fields we teach. We talked about data analytics. We recently launched cybersecurity, and that one is off to a great start. We're seeing tons of interest, both from the employer side and the individual, job seeker side. So we have data analytics, cybersecurity, IT support, project management, user experience design, which are the people who design websites and apps, for example, and digital marketing and e-commerce. So those are our 6 big fields, and within those we have some more advanced certificates too. We have an advanced data analytics. We have a business intelligence, all based on the incredible demand we're seeing from job seekers and from employers. And we have one on automation with Python being the most in-demand language. So now we have a whole portfolio, and that's good because different people want different things. Not everyone wants to be a data analyst, right?
It really is amazing. So we cover a data. I mean, we see the same thing on our end when we run like all the survey data with technology professionals and so on. And obviously, companies large and small out there are turning increasingly into data analytics because they want to mine these huge data sets they have for valuable strategic insight and so on. Do you think that's driving the popularity of that one in particular, that companies obviously are turning to this and so that, it kind of rolls down, or is there something else that I'm not seeing?
I know, for sure. I think there's lots more data out in the world. Everyone realizes that getting smarter about their data leads to better outcomes for their customers. Yeah. I mean, even just think about healthcare data and other kinds of data. If you can do a better job analyzing it, you could probably provide better service to your customers, right? More. And that's the thing about all of our certificates too, is that these are not just jobs that someone has to live in Silicon Valley to do. These are career fields that are in demand across industries and across geographies. So in data, healthcare companies need analysts, retail companies need analysts, governments, education institutions, like everyone, all kinds of companies, tech companies, obviously, has a lot of data, and they're trying to make good decisions based on it and gain insights based on it. And so the good news is you don't have to move to Silicon Valley for these jobs. You can do them pretty much anywhere and in all kinds of industries. Same for IT support or cybersecurity. Cyber attacks were up almost 40% last year. That's not going away. There's just going to be demand for these fields. And it's super exciting to see people from all kinds of backgrounds now get access to these great jobs.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about cybersecurity, we have a cybersecurity writer on staff. I was actually talking about this with them yesterday. The recent White House push for cybersecurity experts, the Biden administration has been pushing all these guidelines forward. All these agencies desperately need cybersecurity people. But the gap, it was an amazing number. It was like there's an estimated job gap of like 600,000 cybersecurity professionals and these slots that need to be filled. And when you think about how vital the infrastructure is that they're protecting, it's amazing. It's also a little scary, and there's obviously this need to kind of ramp people quickly up to fill those roles. It's also with cybersecurity, with Python, with everything else. I mean, these are also kind of big, sweeping topics. And one thing that interests me is always, you've said that you kind of rely on, your internal experts to decide like kind of curricula and things like that. How does that process actually work? I mean, do people just sit around and use data from the market to decide? Is it just sort of what you're seeing internally? I mean, I'm just so curious about it.
Yeah. Well, it actually is pretty straightforward. So we look at this market data to look at which fields are most in demand. As you said, there are, in fact, 650,000 open jobs in cybersecurity right now in the U.S., which is scary. And across our certificate fields, the 6 fields that we teach in the Google Career Certificate Program, there's about 2.5 million open jobs right now.
Oh, wow.
In our country. So we assess where there's real demand. And as I said, we look for things where Google has real expertise. And then we assemble a team, just like we would do on any other big important project at Google. We assemble a team of experts to design and think about what we should build to teach people. We do it from the job back. What are the skills and tasks and knowledge that people need to know? And then we do something which I think is really unique and very important, which is we involve other employers in the curriculum. So, we can't hire all these people at Google. We love to hire some. And we are actually, of course, the first employer hiring Google Career Certificate graduates. Mm-hmm. But now we've built an employer consortium, and we have, thousands of companies, including about 150 big national employers who hire Google Career Certificate graduates. And we need to make sure that what we're teaching is what they're hiring for. So we actually vet our curriculum before we build it with top employers in the field. It's a really important part of the design process. So we were talking about data analytics. I'll just use an example from that. We vetted that curriculum with Deloitte, who hires tons of data analysts. And actually, they helped us make it better. So they shared with us some of the assessments that they use internally when they want to assess someone's mastery of SQL and R. And then they allowed us to build their assessments right into the certificate.
Oh, wow.
So they know when they hire someone who has completed a Google Career Certificate, that person passes their assessment that demonstrates mastery to them. And now the Google Career Certificate for Data Analytics is a preferred hiring credential for Deloitte. Wow. And I think this involvement of employers is significant for lots of reasons. One, we're ensuring that we're teaching what they're hiring for. And two, just having an employer consortium is really important because those employers actually post their jobs directly into the Google Career Certificate job board. So when people complete the certificate, they have access to that job board and they're qualified for the jobs that are posted there. So there's kind of this direct connection to great jobs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fascinating about the employer sort of vetting and then you incorporating then that data into the certification program. When you're speaking with employers, especially kind of the larger ones like the mega consultants of the world and so on, what do they see as valuable in a particular kind of certification? Just because there's so many certifications out there and so many people I talk to, particularly younger tech professionals, are kind of confused or just at least wondering about, should I get this certificate over that certificate? Will an employer respect this certificate over that one? Sort of what are the employers looking for? I mean, like, what do they really want when they're examining a cert versus another one?
Yeah. So I think there's two big things they're looking for. They're looking for, are we teaching the concrete skills that they know they need for the jobs they're hiring for? Mm-hmm. But there's something else that we teach, which I think is really important. We call them durable skills. And that's things like critical thinking and problem solving and communication. For example, in the project management certificate, being a project manager is a little like herding cats. And often you are influencing without authority. So we talk about that in the certificate training. We tell people about influencing without authority, and we try to teach them a little bit how to do it. We talk about the importance of communication, and we try to teach some of those skills. So I think what's particularly important, I think, for employers is, are you teaching someone what they need to know to be a good analyst? And then are you also teaching them some of these durable skills? So actually communication is super important for data analysts. They need to be able to talk about the results that they found, and they get a chance to practice all those skills as part of the certificate program.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. The tech, I mean, there's so much demand for tech professionals right now. The tech unemployment rate, I mean, it obviously has been sort of fluctuating a little bit from month to month, but I think the last BLS data I saw was like 2.3% unemployment for tech professionals, which is intense. And obviously creates a lot of opportunity for people out there, even people who don't have 2 or 4 year degrees. Companies are more, at least theoretically, willing to bring people aboard who might have just a few certifications, and some experience and maybe some GitHub repos that are particularly built out. And you do hear a lot about, on an apocryphal level, how employers are hiring people who might not have very much formal experience, but they have some certs and maybe some other stuff. Are you seeing that as well? I mean, is that just? I'm just wondering sometimes whether that's sort of hype about the demand, or whether it's something where people are just slotting right into tech jobs because they can demonstrate they have the skills.
I think there's more and more interest and excitement about certificates, but certainly it's an evolution. I think in terms of employer mindset about degrees versus other forms of qualification. What I think is really exciting is we're seeing so much demand in our employer consortium, so much pull, because they really do care that people have the skills they need for these jobs. And they know that our curriculum is really robust, but not just because the content is robust, but also because we have these rigorous assessments throughout the certificate. And you have to get an 80% or higher on all of the required assessments in order to earn the certificate. So if you've actually completed it, you've demonstrated this mastery. And I think that's really important, like holding a super high bar, because we want people to get economic security, economic mobility. And to do that, you have to not just get the job. You actually have to be successful in the job. So our focus is really about making people successful in these jobs. And so the good news is when employers hire our graduates, they are succeeding. They are even advancing already in their careers. And then employers come back for more.
So you have a loop with employers in terms of feedback where you're, that's fascinating too. In terms of the feedback, I mean, I assume it's what you were saying before. We are incorporating that to kind of improve the certification programs that you take that feedback from companies employing those graduates. I mean, and again, this is another thing I don't know if you can reveal it or not, but I mean, given all this data you have going on, this is a very data-centric approach to it, and kind of given your perspective, your viewpoint on the landscape as a whole. Where is this going, roadmap wise? I mean, what's the future for this program? I mean, I'm not sure you can reveal like specific certifications, but I'm just curious about where all this is going.
Yeah, we just keep looking at the data for what we should do next, and we're always looking at both the data and talking to the employers in our consortium about what they need. So there's definitely more to come. I just can't talk about the specifics.
Of course not. Yeah. No, I was just curious. I mean, just because it's such. I mean, the interesting thing is I think. I mean, people were predicting for so long that, demand would fluctuate for tech jobs and so on. But I mean, I was just looking at data the other day because just our internal data for job postings and everything from pre-pandemic through now, and it seems like the, demand's not going away. So therefore, the usefulness of these certifications are hopefully continue for a long time to come. So.
Yeah. And we have a whole spectrum of how technical our certificates are, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's, cybersecurity and data analytics, but there's also project management, and there's, digital marketing and e-commerce. So the other thing that I think is really exciting is there's lots for people to choose from. And over time, there'll be even more.
So that was interesting. No matter where you are in your career, learning new skills is absolutely vital. Here are some key takeaways from our discussion with Lisa. First, as Lisa said, only a third of Americans have a 4-year college or university degree. So there's a huge gap out there between what people are capable of doing and the jobs that they can access. Certification and training programs can potentially close this gap. If you're a tech professional or an aspiring one who's strapped for time and resources, consider whether obtaining certs and training can open up new job opportunities for you. Second, data analytics is hot. Tons of organizations all over the country are increasingly mining their data sets for strategic insights, and they need tech professionals who are capable of storing, securely moving, and analyzing that data. If you're looking into tech, consider a data-centric career. Third, if you're in the market for a tech job, keep in mind that durable skills are always key. Durable skills include problem solving, critical thinking, communication, and more. Before you head into a job interview, make sure you have some stories prepared about how you've used problem solving, critical thinking, and similar skills to move past challenges and help projects succeed. Recruiters and hiring managers will weigh such things just as much as your technical skills. That's it, folks. Thanks for listening in. We covered a whole lot of other topics during the episode, of course, so give it a re-listen if there was something you missed. We'll see you next time. And remember, Dice is your best resource to find the tech talent you need to fill your open roles, and for tech pros, the best place to grow your tech career.